The Second Amendment is not about hunting. The Second Amendment, realistically, isn't even about self-defense. The Second Amendment is literally about having weapons of war. Well, there's a whole lot of conflicting news running around lately. Do you actually need an AR-15? Joe Biden says just get a shotgun. He's a gun owner. He has 2 shotguns. Michael Moore says you don't need to get a dog. You need to get a gun. But conveniently, a local pet rescue store says that they won't give you a dog if you have a gun. A lot going on, a lot to talk about today. Just going to give a little bit of commentary on some of the current events. If you're trying to stay up to date with what is going on with the whole Senate and the potential of gun control passing through, a lot of that stuff develops so quickly that I just don't have the time to talk about it. I recommend you check out Langley Outdoor Academy, Guns and Gadgets, Johnny B, TGC, John Crump. There's a lot of great channels out there. I'll try to link some of them down in the description below. They're covering stuff as it's happening, which is very quickly. If you're looking for a way to support this channel, unironically, the best way to do so would be to either get your hormones checked with Merrick Health or use the link in the description for supplements at Gorilla Mind. Also, if you want to check out the merch store, just got the Get Fit or Die t-shirts. They just hit the link down in the merch link down below. Okay, so when it comes to home defense, many of us are probably aware of various tiers or having a multi-step or a multi-stage home defense plan. A big part of that should be deterrence. So obviously it's not easy for a lot of people to just up and move. You might not have the funds necessary to just get out of Dodge, get out of a bad area. So you might need to resort to things like having lights, better locks, more secure windows and doors. Having a dog, that's a great option. And actually, conveniently, Michael Moore, the guy who looks like a bag of potatoes that has been mashed a little bit too much, he says that you don't need a gun and that you should instead you should get a dog. He went on to say that, you basically, the Second Amendment shouldn't actually be protecting your guns and that it's really about the right to not be shot. Conveniently, though, I imagine this man has some sort of security team that travels with him when he goes to high-profile events. The people that he's asking to push gun control likely have a lot of security. Now, interestingly enough, he went on to say that this banning of guns and repealing of the Second Amendment, he said that we should repeal the Second Amendment. He went on to say, a lot of people are afraid to say it. They don't want me to say this. They're afraid it will hurt their re-election chances in November. I think the opposite. I think that being bold and being brave and saying what the majority of Americans are thinking is exactly what the Democrats should be doing. That's interesting to me, seeing as how many new gun owners over the last 2 years have bought guns because they realize that the government can't protect them. And who do we think was some of the biggest groups? Well, it was groups like people of color, African Americans, people who traditionally have voted much more Democrat than Republican. Do you really think that with as many people have recently bought their first gun are really looking to have their rights to own a gun be repealed? Very interesting. But yes, while he did say you should get a dog instead of a gun, I don't think that it should be an either or. I think that dogs are great. They're great companions. I got a tattoo of my dog's underbite on my arm because I thought it was funny. Dogs are great. If you look at many interviews with criminals who are thieves, they would say that a dog being present is a deterrence. So yes, a dog would be a great choice to deter away a potential thief or attacker. Let's jump into the next story, where an animal shelter in Thousand Oaks, California is no longer going to allow people who are NRA members or gun owners or people who are against gun control from being able to adopt a dog. Now, you might be wondering, well, an animal shelter, shouldn't their best interest be to give as many dogs away to good homes as possible? Well, apparently, if you own guns, if you're not for gun control, if you're against having your rights removed or taken without due process like red flag laws would do, you actually should not have a dog. So should you get a dog or should you not get a dog? Well, apparently this lady, who is the arbiter of who gets to have a dog, is putting a question requirement answering people to basically say that they're in favor of gun control. Very interesting. She went on to continue to say that many people who finance and support the animal shelter monetarily are gun owners, are Republicans, or are NRA members that have demanded that she remove that requirement. She doubled down and said that if anyone lies, if they find out that you lied on the application to get a dog, to adopt a dog from an animal shelter, basically keeping it from dying or being put down, if you lie, they will go after you and sue you for fraud. Very interesting. Now, this article had some constitutional lawyers talk about how you don't actually have protections. Being a gun owner is not a protected class in terms of discrimination, which is a very interesting thing to bring up. When you look at the red flag laws as they currently stand in most states that have them, all you really need to do to have your rights, your Fourth Amendment rights and your Second Amendment rights violated, all that really has to happen is one person who's a coworker, a friend, maybe a police officer. Yeah, you heard that right. Just being a police officer, all they have to do is go to a judge and say, hey, this person's a danger to themselves or others. Judge can then just boom. You don't get to have any say in it beforehand. No due process. They just show up and take your guns. Do you think that that is going to lead to safe encounters with law enforcement when passed on a national level, especially when people like this, people who are going out and saying such terrible things and making it seem like you're a terrible person for being a gun owner, who have shown that they are willing to persecute you for your beliefs? Do you think that's a good idea to have no due process? Buy a gun? No, apparently that's not the answer. Buy a dog, but then also buying a dog is apparently not the answer to some people. Joe Biden would say, oh, he's a gun owner. He owns 2 shotguns. He's just like you and me. We're basically the same person. Why can't we come to a compromise and come to an agreement? He's a gun owner, but nobody needs an AR-15. Yet for some reason, if you look up AR-15s used in defensive use, you'll find many stories. One like that's been going around recently where a pregnant woman actually used an AR-15 to defend herself from armed intruders. You can find stories where 15-year-old kids used a dad's AR-15 to defend themselves. You can find all sorts of instances of people using AR-15s, one of the most common rifles in America currently, to defend themselves. So to say that there's no use for an AR-15, let's get this out of the way. We've said this multiple times before. The Second Amendment is not about hunting. The Second Amendment, realistically, isn't even about self-defense. The Second Amendment is literally about having weapons of war. The Second Amendment is a piece of writing on a piece of paper that acknowledges the rights of individuals to have the means and have the arms necessary to protect themselves from the government. When they wrote the Second Amendment, they just got done fighting to the death against an armed government that was trying to control them. Interestingly enough, countries where they don't have any Second Amendment rights, or the government does not acknowledge their Second Amendment rights, you had things like internment camps for people with the COOF. Now, you can't exactly say too much about that without getting bent over the table on YouTube, but you know what I'm talking about. And you simultaneously have people forgetting the fact that in the 40s, in World War II, we put Japanese people in camps just because they were Japanese. And somehow, people like George Takei still are advocating for removing people's rights. A man who was literally in an internment camp because of the color of his skin. The Second Amendment is about having the means to protect yourself and having the arms necessary to fight against the government. It's not about hunting. It's not about sporting. These are not modern sporting rifles. That gun back there is what's going to keep you safe from government-based threats. Let me know what you guys think down below. You guys know the drill. Have fun, be safe, stay dangerous. Peace. Merch store update. We got some new stuff on the site. It's not just mine. It is also people like Guns and Gadgets, Johnny B, Tactical Considerations, Pew Pew Tactical. This is one of the shirts that just hit the store. I actually don't know if they have the tank tops yet. Tank tops for the Get Fit or Die design should be up soon. We don't know when exactly. We've talked about it. We just they wanted to send me a few tank tops, see how I like the fit of them, and I think we're going to go with these. Thank you, everyone that supports the channel. I really appreciate you all. You guys make this possible. Thank you.